Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Avid Tech Talk Webcast series. These sessions were created for Avid customers and partners who administer, design, use, and implement Avid products. These sessions were also created to help you be more successful with the deployment and use of Avid products. Today's session will focus on Pro Tools. In today's session, we will be taking a closer look at customizing consoles with Eucon Soft Keys. Before we get started, I just want to let everyone know that a previous Tech Talk setting up and troubleshooting consoles and control surfaces in a multi-system environment did reference elements of Eucon, but did not focus on console customization, which is what we're talking about today. So while you may see some familiar content, this talk's going to cover some different material. Also, as a reminder, the session isn't really designed with polished marketing content. Instead, these sessions are less formal and focused on providing participants with technical content and as much demo material as possible. My name is Mark Corbin, and I'm the East Coast Field Service Technician for Avid Global Services. My primary expertise is with Avid's large format mixing consoles, including S5, S6, Icon, and our live venue consoles. I've been with Avid since 2011, but previously worked as head audio engineers for several post houses in and around New York City, doing editing, mixing, and designing rooms. I also continue to support my clients and work in the industry, acting as a sound supervisor and mixer for television shows and independent films. Once again, in today's Tech Talk, we're going to be taking a closer look at Pro Tools and customizing consoles with Eucon Soft Keys. So let's get started. So, a quick little agenda on what we're going to be covering. We're going to do a brief Eucon overview and revisit some of the material my West Coast cohort, Brandon Kamek, put together for his last Tech Talk, focusing specifically on Eucon connectivity and troubleshooting. You can just Google Avid Tech Talk and find the current lineup, as well as all of the archives. After that, we're going to move into the architecture of your soft keys, where the files are stored, how and when they're accessed, etc., etc. After that, we're going to take a look at the different editors for the Eucon consoles. And then to wrap it up, we're going to take a look at some examples that can be executed either on the UControl or S6 platform. But before we dive in, I wanted to touch on the purpose and power behind even having the ability to customize your console with soft keys. The idea is that you can create an environment where you can stay creative, press fewer buttons, shift fewer gears, and keep your mind focused. Then you get to stay in the sweet spot, and you get to actually do what you're supposed to do, which is create music, create TV shows, promos, webisodes, film, you name it. Just create. So when it's time for you to do that, we want you to be able to excel at it. All right, so here we go. All right, so a quick review on what Eucon is. Eucon enables you to connect a single surface to a single workstation. In this example, S6 is considered a single surface made up of multiple modules. Or you can connect multiple surfaces to a single workstation. S3, dock, and control are all considered a surface, an individual surface, but all connected to a single workstation. So multiple surfaces here, single workstation. But you're not just limited to a single workstation. You can also connect to multiple workstations, but there's more. These workstations are not just limited to running Pro Tools. They can run multiple applications at the same time or separately. Above are the icons representing many of the third-party pieces of software that have been Euconized, such as Pro Tools, obviously, Media Composer, Nuendo, Final Cut, and PureMX, just to name a few. So, to summarize what Eucon can really do, you can connect a single or multiple surface to a single or multiple workstations running a single or multiple applications. That's just crazy flexible. Okay, so what makes up this protocol? Each application up at the top has a Eucon adapter, which analyzes the software being Euconized and creates a virtual model of the session. If you recall Brandon's Tech Talk, you're going to remember that Eucon is an object-oriented protocol. This means that the software doesn't have to build individual instances of everything in your session. Rather, it uses primitives to make up that virtual model. All right, Mark, so what is a primitive? Every function or parameter that can be controlled is categorized as one of these 12 Eucon primitive objects. The entirety of your session is made up of multiple instances of just these 12 primitives. And these primitives, they make up your soft keys. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the architecture and file structure quickly. All of our consoles have a built-in default app set of soft keys, programmed by the software developer as mentioned before. These can be edited in their respected Eucon application, which then makes them become a user app set. Artist, S3, Dock, and Control app all use uControl as their editor, and S6 uses its own built-in editor. So let's talk a little bit about the two types of XML files we have that make up an app set. We have default app sets and user app sets. So default app sets are the XML files that are updated with Eucon versions and are what the default is restored from. User app sets contain all of the soft keys that you create for each application. These are never altered by the software and can be taken with you between workstations if you like. Let's take a quick look at their locations. Default app sets on the Mac are located here in Application Support, Euphonics SQRL. And the user app sets are located over here in the MC user set root folder. None of these are hidden folders, so they're really easy to get to. If you're not running Time Machine, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and grab the user app set every so often if you're modifying your own soft keys. Let's take a quick look on the Windows side. Default app sets are again in the SQRL folder, while the user app sets are over here in the MC user set root folder. Note that the app data folder is a hidden folder, so you're going to need to turn off hidden folders in Windows. See Professor Google for instructions on how to do that if you're not familiar already. Now let's take a quick look over at S6. Now, S6 uses its own built-in editor, right? Default and user app sets are all saved on the S6 rather than on your computer, as it was with uControl. In S6 2.1 and above, you can now save and load your soft keys directly from the master module for easy portability and backup. This is a preferred method, but if you need to access that XML file for whatever reason, they are located here in the app sets folder, and again over here in the program data app sets folder. Again, you're going to notice that the program data folder is hidden, so you're going to need to turn off hidden folders again. So now we know what kind of files are created, what their purpose is, and where they are. We have a pretty good foundation. Now let's actually talk about what we can do with them, all right? So soft keys can control more than just the Euconized objects that we talked about before. You can see them all down here at the bottom, right? They can also control QWERTY keystrokes, soft key navigation commands, layouts, and wheel commands. You can also program modifier keys to effectively multiply the number of soft keys you have available. Consoles using uControl have a single shift modifier, while S6 uses shift, control, option, and command modifiers, which can be used individually or in multiple combinations, giving you 14 soft key possibilities on a single switch. It's just crazy. Let's take a closer look at the uControl editor, all right? So up here at the top, you're going to notice the application that the uControl editor is focusing on. This is important because if you happen to tab away from the application that you're working on, that you're building soft keys for, this will change and you'll no longer be building keys for that application. Or you might notice that all of your Eucon commands have disappeared when you go back to the editor. You're also going to notice up here in this particular instance that I have a little asterisk by the XML file name. This is actually the XML file that we were talking about earlier, the user app set. That little asterisk appears once you start editing a default app set, or your user app set for that matter. You're also going to notice that the save and revert keys become available. Save just saves the work that you're doing. Revert allows you to go back to the previously saved app set before you hit save. So if you've already hit save and you realize you totally just mucked up your app set, then the only real way to go get it back is to either A, rebuild, or B, hopefully you're running Time Machine or some other backup software to go and put it back in its proper folder. Restore over here is what's going to restore the default app set. So it's going to take it back down to ground zero. It's going to take it back to what we've built. Let's take a quick look over here at the section. This is where you're going to choose the surface that you want to modify. Shift over here is the modifier key that I was talking about earlier. This is going to be what allows you to build a second set of soft keys for a single switch. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail once we get into the examples. Some soft keys have multiple pages that are available, located right here, plus and minus, adds or subtracts pages to your heart's content. Over here, command is going to be where you find your Eucon commands, your query commands, your navigation commands, etc., etc. And then over here, the soft key label, icon, font, and color. Those are all going to be for what is displayed on your control surface if your soft key actually has a display available for it. Not all soft keys have displays available for them. So I think it's all pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to gloss over it really quickly. So let's take a look at the S6. The editor is located under the Settings Soft Keys tab. You can get to the following, you can edit the following pages on the S6. You can edit the master module soft keys, the automation module soft keys, but you can also edit the transport, numeric keypad, and wheel commands. You can obviously modify the commands that we have built, but you can also, add modifier keys to any of them to add multiple layers to any of the default app set. You can also create new pages or keys, but just keep in mind on the S6 world, if you're going to be creating new pages, you are definitely going to want to be creating navigation keys down here so you can get to and from these pages from other soft key pages. You're going to notice also that we've built 3 user pages that are in the automation right section so that you actually don't have to build the navigation commands. They're already available. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into some examples. So I want to talk a little bit about the process of coming up with these examples. I think it's really easy to just see me demonstrate these and not actually see the thought and process that goes in behind the scenes. To create these, I first think of common tasks that I do repetitively while I'm working. Then I reference the Eucon commands and the QWERTY shortcuts available for Pro Tools. Sometimes I come up with workable scenarios, and other times I just don't, just due to software limitations or hardware limitations. But for me, at the end of the day, the time that I invest in creating these has paid off in the time savings that I get while I'm working, and I also find it kind of challenging and rewarding at the end of the day to kind of create these. So, okay, so in all of my examples here, I've broken them down really into 2 categories, workspace and macros. So my workspace soft keys are made up of several elements. They're made up of markers, mainly for zoom, track hide, and show hide functionality. They're made up of Windows configurations to change the layout of my screen. They're made up of layout recalls to change the channel strips that are on my surface, soft key pages that I've built determined on the action that I'm trying to execute, so editing, mixing, etc., and then just some miscellaneous options as well, such as scrolling options, automation display options, so on and so forth. And then the macros, I built those to execute a series of Euconized parameters to execute a single task. So here we go. So we'll look over here at my Pro Tools session over here. In UControl, I've gone ahead and created some layouts, or some soft keys over here. We're just going to call this one OMF. I've created it on the shift layer of Eucon on the view keys of my S3, just because in my mind that makes sense to me, right? I went ahead and put it on the shift layer because it's something that I don't need to access often, but definitely need to access every so often. So putting it on the shift layer for me made sense in my mind. Let's go ahead and just go back over here to Pro Tools, and I'm going to execute my OMF soft key. So you're going to notice a bunch of things happen, right? All of my main tracks, my working tracks, if you will, get much smaller. I've hidden all of my record tracks, my reverbs, all of my VCAs, all of my auxiliary masters, etc., because I don't need to be bothering with them while I'm prepping a session. And then all of my OMF tracks down here, they've just gotten a little bit bigger so I can kind of see the regions and know how I want to group them and know how I want to pull them up into my session. You'll also notice that I've zoomed out so I can see pretty much an entire act all at once. So let's go take a little bit closer look at what all went into creating that sort of a trigger. So if you look over here in the command section, it's made up of this P10P kind of thing, these keystrokes. So the /P indicates a numeric keypad command. If you actually go over here to insert special, you see the whole list of them come up over here, right? So if you'll recall from the Pro Tools QWERTY shortcuts, on the numeric keypad, .10 would be recalling marker number 10. In this case, if we come back over to Pro Tools, you'll see that that's what marker number 10 is for me. If we look a little bit closer at that marker, you're going to see all it's recalling are zoom settings, some track show hide settings, some track height settings, and then some Windows configuration settings. The Windows configuration doesn't do that much for me in this particular example, other than show the I/O and panning information. I don't really need to see that while I'm editing and mixing. I have other places to see that. So for me, once I go into edit mode, mix mode, I like to just hide that with another Windows configuration. You're also going to notice up here in the time properties, I don't have a marker or selection indicated. I just have none. Why that's important is because I can be anywhere in my timeline and trigger this marker, and it's not going to take me to a new location in time. It's just going to change all of these elements down here that I've indicated I want it to remember, and not move my cursor around. So I can be in Act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It doesn't matter. Trigger this marker, and the only thing that is going to change are these properties right here. So anyway, I think it's super powerful just on its own, but incredibly powerful once we start combining it with these soft keys. All right, so we talked a little bit about the marker that gets recalled. I also have a jump to page. So this is jumping to a soft key page that I have created for my control app running on my iPad. If we go take a quick look at it, we're on page 37. So it's just some soft keys that I've created. They're nothing complicated. They're not macros. They're not big workspace things. They're just keys that I often am using in this type of environment. I think this is important to note because when you're customizing your console, it doesn't mean you have to do all these big crazy things that I'm kind of showing. It also just means finding individual, actions that you do often and putting them in a single location so you're not having to tabinate, through multiple pages to get to it. So anyway, some of the ones that I've chosen here are clear clip gain, clear automation, clear pan automation, and then of course import session data, import audio, and import video. And then of course save, because saving is incredibly important, especially when you're prepping a new session. So let's go back to our views over here and continue looking at what all made up this workspace soft key. So we got our jump to page. I'm also recalling a layout for my surface. This is a pretty simple one. Nothing terribly exciting. A whole bunch of auto-assigned tracks, and then a couple of tracks that I have locked to the last two strips on my surface. Then if we come over here, I also have no scrolling built in. This isn't terribly important, other than once I am mixing, I am scrolling. So if for whatever reason I don't get, let's just say I don't get all of my acts at once or something like that, and I have to go from mixing back to an OMF type environment, I want to make sure that I'm turning scrolling off, so that while I'm working, everything is kind of staying in one spot. Because for me, when I'm prepping, I don't want my screen moving around. So that's pretty much for the OMF side of things. Let's take a look at the next one that I created, which is just this default one over here on the View 1 key, right? Just over here. So let's take a look back over here at Pro Tools, and I'm going to go ahead and trigger that default. You're going to notice immediately that a lot of tracks just get bigger. We're way zoomed in now, whereas before we were zoomed very far out, so we could see the whole act. If we scroll down here, you're going to see that I have access to a bunch of my VCAs, all of my reverbs, all of my aux masters, some fold down tracks, my record tracks, and then here are all of my OMF tracks way down at the bottom. I do kind of like to keep them up while I'm editing, just in case I messed up while I'm bringing a clip or something like that up to the top, and just have really easy reference to hop down to the very bottom and see if I forgot something, or if that's really all the clips that they gave me, so on and so forth. So again, a lot of zoom settings, a lot of Windows configuration settings. So let's just take a quick look at what we did. So again, we recalled a marker, numeric marker number 7, right, on the numeric keypad, period 7 period. We also recall another layout on my surface, just one that I call default. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Most things are all auto-assigned except for another track that I have all the way locked on the last strip. We're also jumping to another page that I have created for the control app on my iPad. We're going to go look at that in a little bit more detail in a second, because I have a macro that I've built over there that I actually want us to take a closer look at. Again, I have no scrolling turned on because while I'm editing, I don't really want to be scrolling. And then you may have noticed that I also had the automation lanes turn on, and then I turned them off. When I'm editing, I don't really want to see the automation lanes, but at least in the manner in which I work, I'm oftentimes hopping back and forth between editing and mixing. While I'm mixing, I definitely want to see my automation lane, but when I hop back over to editing, I don't. So technically, this is used as a toggle in this instance. So if I'm going from mixing back over to editing, it will be turning off. If I'm going from editing, where it's not shown, to mixing, it'll be turned on. Conveniently enough, if I go back into the Pro Tools environment and I just tap that View 1 key, all it's going to be doing, it'll be triggering everything else, but since they're all already recalled, the only thing that's changing is going to be my automation lanes, right? Apparently I haven't done a lot of automation in this little sequence. So let's go take a closer look at this surface recall on the control app. We're on page 5. So again, just some really simple Eucon keys that I had gone ahead and created that I like to use. Previous clip, next clip, and then clip gain up and down. I have a tabbed transient over here that's created. which is what I really want to talk about. And then I have these two little do selected and to trim keys that I'm still trying to work out that I think I'll actually talk about in a little bit more detail a little later. So let's look at this tab to transient. So I don't know about you guys, but when I'm working, I oftentimes get clips like this that I have a whole lot of just tone at the top. Sometimes I'll do a nice long fade in, but at least for this particular show, I like to trim them nice and tight. So it's not terribly difficult, for me to come over here and trim it and just draw a fade. That's not a big deal. But when I'm staring down the barrel of doing this over and over and over and over again, the repetitiveness starts to get a little bit daunting, and taking the time to actually build a macro gets to be a whole lot more appealing. So let's go take a look at it, what I've done. So I've built this tab to transient macro. Basically what it's doing is turning the tab to transient on. It tabs to the first clip boundary, then it tabs to the first transient. It draws a fade in, it nudges 2 frames backwards, and then it trims that faded region, and then it turns tab to transient off. So it's like 7 things. All that I only have to press 1 button for. So if you come over here, and I'm just going to move my marker before the clip, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit my tab to transient, and boom, there it goes. Pull it back out again. Tab to transient, and there it goes. You'll notice up here, the tab to transient key is going to turn on and then turn off. I don't like working with tab to transient on. I find it gets in the way. I tend to use tab also as a navigator to hop around between clips, like clip boundaries, and having tab to transient on gets in my way. All right, so let's move on to a little bit of workspace, a little bit of a mixing workspace. So I'm just going to go ahead and recall it since I'm still in Pro Tools. And you're going to notice all of my my main sections here, all my main tracks here just get shrunk down to a medium. All my automation lanes get recalled. My sound effects tracks here get shrunk because I don't necessarily need to see them as much as when I'm editing them, at least for this particular show. And then everything else just kind of stays the same. So let's go take a quick look at what makes up this workspace. So again, you'll never guess, we're recalling a marker. We're turning on my automation lanes. I'm turning on my continuous scrolling because, like I said, when I mix, I want to be able to scroll. I'm recalling a new layout on my surface, which contains all of the VCAs that I like to access, which in this case isn't too many, just 4. And everything else is just auto-assigned. And then it's also going to jump to a new page on the control app, right? So let's go take a quick look at that. Page 1. So again, to my point before, on this page, I've created a bunch of soft keys that are simple soft keys. They're just actions that I use often when I'm mixing. My preview, my suspend preview, my punch preview, my right to selected, suspend automation. All of these keys are actions that I found myself hunting for and using often, and I wanted to put them all in one place. So I just took the first page of the default app set and I mostly mutilated it. I just changed it to what worked best for me. The macro that I built in this case is more for when I'm done mixing. And I called it this clip rename macro over here. When I am done mixing in Pro Tools, I print all of my deliverables within my session, right? So in this particular show, it's 6 acts long. I got 4 deliverables per act. Nothing terrible, but as you know, it always, whenever we record in Pro Tools, it always puts this little _01 under it, which is convenient for certain things, but when I'm having to deliver to a client, I don't want that to be there. Again, it's easy enough to just go double click on the region, and go delete those and go through every single one of the clips. But for me, I got a bunch of them, and there are, shows where I have even more deliverables. Then I don't want to sit here for 15, 20 minutes doing that. So I came up with this little clip name macro. Basically, what it is doing is it is selecting the next clip. Then it is opening the rename dialog box. Then it's going to the end of that name and deleting the last 3 characters and then hitting enter. So let's see it in action. So like I said before, you'll notice the little _01 over here. So we're just going to come over here and hit clip rename. Bam, done. Hit it again. It's going to go to Act 2. So you notice now Act 2 is nice and clean. We're going to hit it again. And now Act 3 is nice and clean. We're going to hit it again. And Act 4 is now nice and clean. And then anyway, in just a couple of seconds, I've renamed all of my, my entire set of deliverables. And for me, that is incredibly powerful and a huge time saver. So that pretty much wraps it up on what I have for the U-Control side. Let's try and do some S6 examples. Now, S6 is obviously a little bit more complicated because it's its own console, and it's hard to hook up a console to a WebEx demo. But I have a little S6 circulator over here. So we're going to see if we can get it to play nice. So here's the S6 GUI for the master module. Let's go ahead and launch WS Control and see if everybody plays nice the way it's supposed to. So again, all of the stuff that we did in U-Control is very doable on the S6 side. So I've gone ahead and created a couple of these same macros with a little bit of a twist on the S6 side. All right, here we go. So as I said before, everything that we did on the U-Control side can be done on the S6 side. Get out of here. So let's go take a look at the soft keys section on the S6. We're going to look at the automation module soft keys, and we're going to navigate over to the user keys, which is where I went ahead and created these couple of macros. So on user page 1, I went ahead and created a similar OMF workspace key. I've got it recalling my my macro or my marker. I've also got it recalling a page of soft keys, this edit 1, which will show up on the left-hand side of the soft keys, right? The soft key page that we've already built. And then I also just have it recalling some no scrolling, right? So not quite as in-depth as the other one, but just a little bit different. What else I've also done is on the shift layer of this key is I've built in my import session data key. So on that same user window, I can just hold the shift key down, and now all of a sudden my OMF workspace switch now becomes my import session data switch. So less thinking. I can just know that that switch is always going to be effective for me when I'm doing OMFs. Also on the alt layer, I went ahead and pulled in my import video, because for me, when I'm prepping a session, that's what I'm doing mostly, is importing OMFs, AFs, and importing video files. So pretty straightforward. You can do the same sort of things with the edit and mix ones. What I really wanted to talk about on the S6, however, was the locate, was the keys, the numeric keypad over here, right? So on the default app set, we took the shift layer of the numeric keypad, and you're going to see it already is recalling all of these automation pages, right, for the different soft key pages on your S6. So all four of those displays are going to be changing depending on which workspace you're recalling. So I believe this one is for automation, right? So it's kind of like it's more for a mixing kind of thing. Really, really handy on its own. We're just going to take it one more step further, right? So if you slide all of these guys over to the left a little bit, you're going to notice we have a whole lot more room to create more keystrokes. So I went ahead and added in a Windows configuration recall here. I've also added one of my marker recalls here. I've also added in a scrolling recall here. Since this is all automation, for me this is in mixing world. And then I've also gone ahead and turned on the automation lanes. You're going to notice the one thing that I didn't do in this particular instance that I was able to do on all of the UControl ones is actually create a layout recall on my surface. Currently on S6, you can't recall layouts to your surface with a soft key. You have to do it from the layouts switch, which is a little bit of a bummer because it could be really powerful for you to be able to do it in a workspace type macro like this, like we've been talking about. The good news is that really shortly, I believe in the next release, you're going to be able to do that. So you don't have to hold out too much longer. So that's about it for the examples that I have. I had a couple of documents that I wanted to leave you guys with before we go, so that you guys, whenever you're working on your own soft keys, you can have some reference material as well, right? You can be as creative with your soft keys as you imagine when you're creating them. There's obviously certain limitations, but with a little thought, you can get some really, really nice results. All of these documents that are below are on the Avid website, but I'll go ahead and create a single knowledge base article with them all in it, which will be referenced in the archived version of this talk. So really just wait till you get the email, and you'll have a link to all of these guys. So the ones that I wanted to show you are over here. So I have the Pro Tools shortcut guide, which basically gives you the QWERTY shortcuts for all of the Pro Tools commands that have them programmed, which is really helpful since you obviously have a lot of keystrokes available in your macros. Then I have this Eucon guide, which again is super helpful because it immediately outlines and lays out where all of the commands are in the Eucon hierarchy, so you don't have to hunt and peck for specific ones. If you have a specific command you're looking for, just go and do a search up here, and boom, you can find where it is. The other one that I really, really like is this S6 operation guide. Not just for its soft key section, but which is excellent, but for everything else that they've done. The guys who put this together did a really, really excellent job of making it easy to navigate through and deliver really, really clear information. But if you hop over to the soft key sections, you're going to notice what I was talking about before, where we were recalling automation, keypads, and all of the soft key displays, right? Which again is really powerful, and we were just able to take it a little bit further. You're also going to see a little bit more information on loading and saving, as well as, which I think is really convenient, the layouts of every single page that we have built in the default app set. Again, now you don't just have to hunt and peck through your the lists of pages on your actual console. You have a nice little reference guide that you can go to. And then it also goes into a little bit more detail about creating and editing keys. So that's about all I have. I really want to encourage all of you guys to engage with each other, on the Duck or any other forums that you have at your disposal to continue, discussing what you're building and ask questions of each other. And, I'm going to keep my eye out and chime in whenever I can. Just remember the entire purpose of being able to have a customizable environment with soft keys is so that you can exist in that creative space a little bit more efficiently. Fewer button pushes, fewer moments of distraction to pull you away from what you're doing, which is creating. So thanks so much for joining today, and I think we're going to open it up for some questions now. All right, let's see what we got. What is the difference between revert and restore? Okay, so that's over on the Ucontrol side. So we're going to quit out of S6 really quickly and WS Control and see if we can get it back in a healthy manner. Basically, the difference between revert and restore is revert is going to bring you back to a previously saved state on your soft keys in Ucontrol, with the caveat that you have not yet saved. If you're editing and you save, you can't go back to the previously saved one because now that's your saved one. Restore, on the other hand, is going to restore the default app set. So it's going to bring you back down to ground zero. You're going to lose all of your all of your soft keys that you've created. Yeah, and you're going to notice they're not available until you come over here and actually start editing on something. And once you've kind of started editing, you're going to notice that these two become available. And you'll see the little asterisks over here. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Can I copy and paste? Unfortunately, you can't. There's not a way to copy and paste between either pages or between XML files if you're going, from S3 to S6 or something like that. So what a lot of people do is they just write down the text and have it, displayed, in an Evernote or just in a note somewhere. So if you need to go recreate it, you can go recreate it. So sometimes I lose my Eucon commands while I'm building soft keys. What gives? I spoke a little bit about this previously, and we'll look at it again really quickly. So let's just go over here to page 5. Oh, that's a bummer. That's a total bummer. So let's just go over here to page 5. So you'll notice if I go to build something here, I don't have any commands. It's because my last application that I was focused on was not Pro Tools. Or I guess it was. That was a terrible example. Let me just hop back over to, let's just hop over to, say, preview, right? And now we're going to go back to Ucontrol. And you're going to notice I have no Eucon commands anymore, right? They're all gone. I'm pretty sure this is what you're referencing. But now if I just hop back over to Pro Tools and now hop back over here, you'll see all of my Eucon commands are now available. Easy way to tell is whether or not this application list right here is still looking at the Pro Tools XML. A really good gotcha, however, is if under the Assign tab, you have locked the entire surface or transport to the surface or to the Pro Tools XML. It's really great because you can hop around between other applications and your surface doesn't change, but what you are programming, your soft keys will. The trick is that this doesn't change either because it's locked to the Pro Tools 12 XML. But once you hop into the editor, it's not looking at the right place. So realistically, all you need to do is hop over to Pro Tools and hop back, and you'll have all of your Eucon commands. Can I build in pauses? Absolutely. You can build in pauses on both S6 and on Ucontrol. It's under the keystrokes. So if you hop over to key, and do insert special, it's all the way down here at the bottom. I actually believe it's at the top on the S6, but again, it's just listed as 5 millisecond pause on the S6. What else do we have? Can I create soft keys for specific applications? Absolutely. You can create soft keys for Pro Tools. You can create soft keys for any of those other applications that I had listed before. You can create soft keys for the Finder. You can create soft keys. I actually was going to create soft keys for my PowerPoint presentation today, but thought that was a little bit much. But yes, absolutely. How can I get these awesome macros created for this session? Thank you. Unfortunately, all of these macros and soft keys are embedded in the XML and can't really be separated. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to list all of the keystroke combinations on the knowledge base article that gets posted along with this archive. So if you want to build them or build a version of them, you can at least have a roadmap and go ahead and take care of it yourself. Is there support for System 5? Yes and no. It's a tricky question. Technically, technically no, not with Avid. Modifying the soft keys on S5 isn't something that's supported. There are third-party applications out there to alter the S5 soft keys. You may also be able to go grab that XML file from Emix and with a little bit of renaming trickery, bring it into uControl and edit it on the as a touch screen. You'll see them all come up here. We've had some customers that have had positive results doing it this way and others that have not. I think it just has to do with whether or not you're running, with what version of Emix you're running. Is there a soft key on the artist control for trim automation mode? Yeah, you can trim on any of the surface. You can do it on artist control, S3, any of them really. It's a two-part process though. And it's not just for trim, it's going to be for any automation modes. So if you come over here to, let's just say here, and you go to Command, and you come down to Automation and Modes, and let's just do trim because that was your question. When I just select trim, the software needs a second part. It needs to know who I'm putting into trim, right? So if you just build trim like this, when you depress it on your surface, you just need to go hit select on the faders that you want to put into trim. Alternatively, you can also build a second soft key over here. Come on. Eucon. And if you come down here to, not OS modifiers, yeah, to global down here, and do either do to selected or do to all. Then if you have multiple tracks selected, you can put multiple tracks into trim very easily and very quickly with just a couple of keystrokes. So absolutely. And it works the same on, like I said, S6. It works the same on the S3, mix, control, any of the above, right? Can S6 and S3 share soft keys or share saved soft keys? No, there's not. There's not a way to bring any soft keys across surfaces like that, since they're built for specific locations. You know, like we were building soft keys on the S3 before in the view columns. There wouldn't be any place or way to translate these, you know, over onto an S6 or even onto another location of the S3. So like I said, it's handy just to either write them down or know how you built them so you can reconstruct them if you ever need to. Can I use control on my iPad to control S6? Unfortunately, no. So Pro Tools Control for your iPad is a uControl app, not a WS Control app. So it only runs on WS Control, which controls, works with the S3 and Artist series, right? So it's not going to be able to work with your S6, unfortunately. And can you provide a list of those knowledge base articles that you were talking about? Yes, I will. Again, once you go take a look at the archive of this, it's going to be all listed there. So you should just be able to go grab them, and we'll be updating them as needed. Let's see. So that's it. That's all the questions we have for today. I think that's going to do it for me. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for taking a little bit of time out of your day. I really hope that you found some of this information interesting and informative, and maybe even picked up a tip or trick or two. Before we go, I just wanted to share a couple little bits of additional information related to some Pro Tools training options. If you found today's sessions useful, we'd also like to suggest maybe a little bit of additional training to help you be even more successful with Pro Tools. For those who like self-study and are maybe a little bit new to Pro Tools, we have a Pro Tools 101 Introduction to Pro Tools courseware on the Avid web store, available as either a printed book or a downloadable ebook. The first course is in a this is the first course in a series of 100, 200, and 300 level courses. Are all for those looking to gain user operation and expert certifications in Pro Tools. Classes are also available at learning partners at over 500 locations worldwide. If you just go check out a learning partner near you at the Avid website, www.avid.com/support/training/find a partner. For those looking for technical certification, as an Avid Certified Support Representative, ACSR, we also offer the Pro Tools 400 ACR Pro Tools Systems course at Avid regional offices. Now, it's a blended course that has 3 days of self-paced online content, followed by 2 days of intensive hands-on instruction with installation, upgrades, and troubleshooting techniques of Pro Tools systems. I actually highly recommend this one. It's a really, really solid course. Please go to avid.com/training and click on the Find a Course and Enroll link to find more information on these classes and to find specific instances of these classes in a location near you. So once again, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to attend today's Tech Talk webcast. Hope you found this information valuable and useful. Please visit the Tech Talk registration page to register for additional Tech Talk sessions. New sessions are going to be posted regularly, so please check back often. Please feel free to send questions or comments or any feedback, really, on today's session to customer.care@avid.com. That's customer.care@avid.com. So thanks for your interest in the Avid Tech Talk webcast series, and we'll see you next time.